Good afternoon, you guys. Welcome back. Welcome home. I'm your host, the man of letters himself, Keith Garcia. And today, we're going to clear the slate on some things. There's a monk who gave a little story time. And I'll retell the story. It went something like this. He says, I have these cups, and they're both filled with water. One is a more impressive cup. One is a less impressive cup. You have your really fancy cup, right? Drink it. Water. Tastes like water. Fancy cup, water tastes the same. This isn't even a cup, it's just a jar with water in it. Tastes the same. Both cups, water filled inside. Doesn't matter if you have a fancy one, really impressive one, or a very standard basic one. The water tastes the same. Therefore, the monk argues, our container does not matter. The container we have for life does not change the quality of life itself. The container does not change the quality of water. You think, makes sense. He's a monk, he's got the monk's clothes, his head shaved, cups, one may be fancy, one may not be fancy, one is silver, one's plastic, water still tastes the same, right? Container doesn't matter, assuming he's meaning purely your state of mind, and that's it. Container doesn't matter. I'm going to say he's wrong. And I'm seeing this happen a lot more these days with the world of consciousness and spirituality. They say things that mostly are parroted and sound good, but when you really think about it reasonably, you go, okay, it feels good. All right, now I know what the feeling is like. Now I will apply my mind so that we have a healthy balance between the feels and the logic, the reason. And we go, does it actually make sense when I look past the monk robes, when I look past the accent, when I look past the shaved head, when I look past the surface appearance and the surface feels of the thing, is it reasonable? And then I would say, no. In fact, it's not reasonable to say that the container for your life does not matter because it does not change the quality. One, that's awfully audacious to say that. Audacious as hell. And two is shy on, negligent, irresponsible, and possibly even dangerous. The container for your life means almost everything. The philosophy behind that concept is that spirit is the most important thing. And it is. That I'm not disagreeing with. Spirit is actually the most important thing. It's home. It's source. And we do, to a certain extent, have the ability to dictate our experiences and our qualities of life despite circumstances. What's being taught here, in other words, is the, again, parroted phrase that your circumstances don't matter, only your state of being matters, only your mind matters. And that's not true. It originates from mind, it originates from your perceptions, but that's not to say that your quality of life is not influenced by the container. It's when you really think about it, ridiculous. We live in the material world. Material is not separate from spiritual, from the immaterial. In fact, they are two exact same things, but to varying degree. Material is an extension of spirit. It's an extension. It is not separate from spirit. It is the same thing. We all come from the same thing, therefore we are all the same thing. Therefore everything affects everything else. Everything is tied together. And what is tied together more importantly than most, ironically, is the container for what you are trying to exist in. If you have a shitty framework, in other words, for your life, you're going to have a shitty life. For example, if your container in life is not well defined, if your boundaries are not well defined between the external world and yourself, if your ideas, if you're trying to start a business, if your ideas of how to run the business, of how to make money, of how you're going to invest your money, how you're going to spend your money, if that is not well defined, if your business plan is not well defined, your business is going to suck. If your relationship isn't well defined, your relationship is going to suck. If your life is not well defined, your life is going to suck. You're not going to have direction. You're not going to have purpose. You're not going to have conviction. You're not going to have clarity. You're not going to have abundance and sustainable will generated from yourself. And these things all come from having a very healthy structure, a very healthy boundary, a very healthy container. Now, to be fair, the video I saw was just one small framework, one small snippet of what I'm assuming is a large lecture on this topic. And he could have explained exactly what I'm explaining, but because they took that one small snippet out, threw it on an advertisement, and gave that to the world, they gave him no context. And half-truths, like the container of your life doesn't affect the quality, which is verbatim when it says the container does not affect the quality, is a half-truth. Because you have the truth that no, circumstances do not define you. Your state of being defines you. You also have the other side of that truth that actually the container is still you. You are not separate from the container. The container, the framework, is still a part of spirit, and because it's still a part of spirit, will still affect your spirit. Your spirit as far as your will, your drive, the spirit of man, you know, what drives you, what wakes you up in the morning, that is all a part of your container. And without a healthy container, I'm sorry, you will not have a healthy life. It will not be happy. Don't get me wrong, however. This isn't about having nice cars. Because one could say, well, Keith, he's talking about having really nice cars. He's talking about you don't have to have a Porsche to be happy. You don't have to have the best of the best things to be happy. That, I believe, is also untrue. Because then that's demonizing the material world. And I hate to break it to you, we live in the material world and we are made of the material world. Material means flesh and bone, means anything that is not pure spirit. So they say the idea that it doesn't matter what you want has a whole plethora of negative side effects. For example, if you don't have a value structure for something, then you don't have direction. If you don't know what is right and what's wrong, or what move to make is better for you, then you have no direction. Let me give you an example of how all things are not equal. When I designed Man of Letters, this channel, I wanted it to feel a little antique-ish, like Indiana Jones. That's why I'm wearing this cool brown shirt, and I have Egyptian things, and I have a world map behind me that's very vintage. I want that vintage and antiquity, wisdom, knowledge, but still occult, magic, woo-woo, pseudosciences, conspiracies. I wanted that rounded worldly feel. And it wouldn't make sense if I got angel candle holders for that. No, Egyptian fits perfectly. It is more valuable to my channel to have this thing, because all containers, again, are not equal. Going back to the original thing that the monk said, he says the container does not influence the quality of the water, and it's ridiculous. It absolutely influences the quality of what's inside the container, of what the container is. If I didn't have a world map where a certain color, fabric, style of clothes have Anubis Egyptian candle holders, I wouldn't be creating a feel. The container of what you're seeing in this square is on purpose, and it evokes a certain feeling from the viewer that matches the theme, that matches the context, that matches the feel that I want to project into the world. Your container absolutely influences the quality of the watcher, Mr. Monk, which is why I started this video with, in marketing, there is something called appeal to authority. Show people in authority roles and then tell them something through the authority's mouth, and people take it verbatim because that person is an authority. But it's not true. I don't care what this person looks like, how bald his head is, or what the clothes he looks like. Sorry, I'm not hating on monks. Monks are brilliant people. I'm saying in this context, it was used to pitch an idea when you take the idea and actually think about it and reason behind it, doesn't make any sense at all. That being said, you guys, don't buy into everything that you hear online. Even this video, question everything I'm saying. You'll say, oh yeah, Keith makes a good point. Everyone makes good points. The monk in the video made a good point, but upon further inspection, it actually wasn't a good point at all. Keith, that was a good point. Upon further inspection, you might be showering tonight, washing your booty, and you're like, you know what? On second thought, what Keith said actually doesn't fit my life. My life is slightly different than the way Keith sees the world, so that's not necessarily applicable. I see where Keith's getting at. I see where the monk is getting at. Now I'm going to put in my 2 cents, put in my experience, my subjective experience, and I'm going to make sense of the world. And that's what I'm saying. Don't buy into everything. But at the same time, trust me that I am not wrong when I say the container of your life absolutely 100% affects the quality of your life. I'll say it again. The container that you create in your world will 100% affect your quality of life. Not all containers are the same. I promise you that. So, again, I am Keith, your host here at Man of Letters. I'm happy to be chatting with you. I'm happy to be enjoying this nice Friday. I might drink from this goblet, by the way, for every video, because this thing is cool as hell. It doesn't necessarily fit the scene, but I kind of feel like Jesus, because it's Jesus-ish. Welcome home, you guys. See you next time.